All right, so before we get started up today, I just want to check your permit for a couple things and write down your permit number. So you always want to write down the student's permit number and their legal given name. When you go to put in their information into the DOT website for completion, you have to have their legal given name, and you have to have their permit number. And sometimes parents switch around numbers or letters on their permit number, or they don't give you their legal given name. They give you, just what they go by or whatever. The other thing to look for, and you might not see this, but we've seen it a few times. So this is an actual permit. At the top, the bar is orange and it says instruction permit. But we have seen a couple that are brown on the bar at the top and say identification card, which is not a learner's permit. So they cannot drive with that. I don't know why the DOT would even give these out to a kid, but we've had a couple of those. So something to just check for. So always good to check the expiration date. Most students are only going to be 14, 15 years old, so that's not going to be an issue because their permit's good for, I think, 3 years. So unless they're older, maybe 17 or 18, it could be close to expiring. The other thing that's good to look at is when their license was issued. So if they just got their license a week or two ago, obviously it's going to be the paper license. And there's not a whole lot that you want to read into that anyway. I've had students that have only had their permits for a month, and they've been really good drivers. They've been out practicing quite a bit with their parents. I've had students that have had their permits a year and have hardly ever driven and aren't very good at all. So you don't want to put too much stock in how long they've had their permit. In general, the longer they've had it, the more they've driven, the more experience they've had. But every student's different, so you can't put too much into that. So, all right, so here's your permits back. All right, so I just want to ask you a couple questions before we get started up, just to kind of see how you feel about driving. So like in general, how many times a week would you say that you drive?
Probably a couple.
Couple times a week, 2 or 3 maybe?
Yeah, about 2 times a week.
Okay. So you want to drive as much as you possibly can, starting now, right? So think of this, we're in season now, right? So we practice, we'll say at least 6 out of the 7 days a week. You want to try to practice, that way you can continue to improve on things. If you go maybe a few days or more and don't drive, then your skills, you can forget things, your skills can kind of regress a little bit. So even if it's for a short amount of time, a short distance, it's important that you get behind the wheel every day and kind of get in the routine of doing some of the things we're going to do today as far as the pre-drive checks and adjustments and steering wheel control and some of the basic procedures. So where do you usually drive?
Like around my house, sometimes to school.
Okay. Yep. So it's always good, if your parents take you to school, to drive to school and back. That's probably where you'll be driving quite a bit once you get your your school permit or intermediate license. But it's also good to drive other places too, right? So, mom or dad goes to the grocery store, drive there. You go to the mall, drive there. So you want to try to get as much experience driving as many different places as you can, and not just your residential neighborhood, or not just the same route to school and back all the time. So
Okay.
but really any time behind the wheel is better than none. So who do you usually drive with?
Usually my mom.
Your mom? How's that usually go? Does she like teaching you how to drive, or
She's usually on her phone.
she's on her phone? Yeah, that might not be the safest thing. So yeah, I hear sometimes that that moms or dads can get a little nervous, and that's normal, right? They don't have a brake on their side like we do, and so sometimes they might raise their voice or yell a little bit, or things might get a little anxious in the car. So I'll never yell at you. I'll always try to teach you out in front of the maneuvers that we do. So before we before we do any type of skill or maneuver, I'll explain how I want you to do it, so that way you know exactly what my expectations for that are. And so there's not much I haven't seen, so you probably won't catch me off guard too much. So what type of vehicle do you usually drive?
Bigger than this.
Yeah, like an SUV or a truck or?
Yeah, it's like a 4-door, sits up pretty high.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah. So yeah, the good thing about driving, like this car is it's pretty small, so it's easy to turn, it's easy to park. Sometimes you drive a pickup truck or a larger SUV, they're just a little bit harder to turn and park. So that is one nice thing. So in general, how would you say you feel about driving?
I don't know.
Do you like it? Do you not like it? Does it make you nervous?
It's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any specific situations or types of roads or driving that you don't like or that might make you nervous?
I don't like the interstate.
The interstate, that's pretty common, right? Until you get used to the higher speed and semis and things like that. That can be a little intimidating. So we won't do the interstate until down the road a few drives, so you don't have to worry about that for a few weeks. So so yeah, today we'll just be going through basic procedures. We'll be working either in a residential neighborhood or a parking lot, working on right and left turns, two-way stops and four-way stops, just some basic procedures today, kind of getting used to the car and getting used to getting directions from me. The next drive, we'll review what we did today, and then we'll add a little bit of some new skills. So we'll add in parallel parking, we'll go out and we'll talk through some lane changes, talk about point of no return as we come to a stoplight. We'll work on intersection observation and sign observation. Drive 3, we usually go downtown, and we usually use that to introduce our interstate merging on and off the interstate once, just to kind of get a feel for it. So drive 4, then we usually go out of town on the interstate, doing some on and off ramps. Then we usually do just a little bit of 2-lane country roads to talk about some of the potential hazards out there, and just a little bit of gravel, so you can experience that a little bit. A lot of kids haven't driven on gravel at all, so it's a good thing for them to see. Drive 5 is our review drive, so it's kind of like a pre-test. We'll just kind of review and practice everything again, see if you have any questions or anything we need to practice a little bit more. And then your last drive is your drive test.
Okay.
Where it's just like the pre-drive, just do a little bit of everything just to check and make sure you're safe with all the different types of situations that you'll see when you get your license. Okay. So yeah, the big thing is, as we're driving, I'll be talking a lot, especially today. I might be asking you questions later on in the drives, but if you ever have any questions about anything, whether it's what we're talking about specifically or just anything that you see or anything that you have seen, don't hesitate to ask if you have any questions. Okay.
Okay.
All right, sounds good. We'll go ahead and get started.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.